If you close your eyes and picture Babylon, you likely see a city of impossible scale, towering stone megaliths, lush suspended gardens, and a spire built so high it threatened the heavens, a monument to human hubris. That specific vision is deeply embedded in our collective imagination. In the 1920s, the Austrian-German director Fritz Lang cemented this exact aesthetic for the modern era in his cinematic epic Megaliths. Lang used the myth of the Tower of Babel as a literal backdrop. On the silver screen, the tower became a bleak metaphor for unchecked ambition, illustrating a stark divide between the wealthy elites ruling from the clouds and the underground workers keeping the machines running. But there is a massive contradiction at the center of the world's most famous ancient city. The stone-clad Babylon of our stories looks nothing like the physical dirt history actually left behind. If you travel to the Babel Governorate in modern Iraq, you will not find stone megaliths. You will find massive foundation pits and the eroded, rounded remnants of mud brick walls baking in the desert sun. Because the ancient Babylonians built their empire primarily from sun-dried river mud, the city is quite literally melting back into the earth. It is a decay so severe that groups like the World Monuments Fund have stepped in to execute conservation efforts to save what is left. To find the historical Babylon, we have to strip away the grand mythological narratives. We have to look at the ledgers, the mundane receipts, the administrative clay tablets, and the literal dirt dug out of the ground. Let's start with the most enduring legend, the biblical Tower of Babel. For millennia, this has been recognized as the ultimate symbol of arrogant men trying to build a physical stairway to God. The archaeological reality is a structure known as the Etemenanki. Today, it's little more than a vast square pit in the Iraqi desert. But in antiquity, it functioned as an axis mundi, a cosmic center designed to connect the earth with the heavens. We know its exact dimensions from the administrative texts left behind. The ziggurat sat on a massive 91 by 91 meter square base. It required an estimated 17 million fired bricks, waterproofed with black bitumen, to construct 7 distinct, tiered levels reaching roughly 90 meters high. Its height wasn't an attempt to physically break through the sky. The upper levels were highly restricted spaces. Babylonian priests used these elevated terraces as observatories to track celestial cycles and map the cosmos. What the builders intended as a profound act of scientific and religious devotion, neighboring cultures observed from the outside and eventually reinterpreted as a monument to human pride. We see a similar distortion with the biblical narrative of the Babylonian exile. The traditional story paints the 6th century BCE captivity of the Jews entirely as a period of imprisonment and slavery. However, clay cuneiform tablets discovered near ancient Nippur, the Al-Yahudu or Judahtown archive, date to just a few decades after the destruction of Jerusalem. They show that unlike the Assyrian policy of scattering conquered peoples, the Babylonians settled victims together in specific communities. These ledgers record exiled Jews paying taxes, leasing land, and trading barley, proving they were functioning participants in the Babylonian economy. This chart shows that while 43% adopted Babylonian names, 38% retained Hebrew names, demonstrating high cultural retention within these concentrated settlements. One specific debt note even contains 5 Paleo-Hebrew letters scratched into the side of the clay. Even 50 years into the exile, families were teaching their children the script of their homeland. Further records show King Jehoiachin himself was given regular rations of oil, treated as a royal guest rather than a prisoner. This concentrated settlement and economic participation allowed the exiles to maintain their native identity and script. The Babylonian bureaucracy required them to keep records, and in doing so, inadvertently created the space for Jewish culture to organize and eventually return home. Then there is the final piece of the Babylon puzzle, the Hanging Gardens. It is the only wonder of the ancient world completely missing from the archaeological record. Despite over a century of extensive excavation and mapping, researchers found 0 physical evidence of advanced irrigation or terraced gardens in the dirt of Babylon. Many researchers now conclude that the legendary gardens did exist, but Greek historians simply attributed them to the wrong city. The evidence points 300 miles north to the Assyrian capital of Nineveh. These cuneiform blocks on the Sennacherib prism detail the construction of botanical gardens and a palace without rival. We have found the physical aqueducts and early Archimedes screws in Nineveh that were necessary to water such a structure. Over centuries, Babylon's reputation as the region's dominant power grew so strong that it functioned as a magnet for legend. It began to absorb the engineering achievements of its rival empires into its own story. When you look at the physical reality of the ruins today, you are forced to confront the extreme fragility of the materials they used. The Egyptians built their pyramids out of solid limestone and granite, materials that stand indifferent to time. The Mesopotamians built with river mud. Mud brick requires constant maintenance, and without human hands to continually repair it, the architecture is easily erased by wind and rain. A civilization built entirely from the dirt beneath its feet was physically destined to disappear. While the physical towers and gardens have long since dissolved, the societal engineering and architectural ambition they represented were captured in the texts of every neighbor they touched. This complex bureaucracy and urban planning became a template for human ambition. It captivated Greek historians, inspired Jewish scribes, and provided the archetype for modern filmmakers. Babylon achieved its longevity not through stone, but through documentation. A city made of simple river mud engineered a legacy that outlasted its own walls.